I simply want to nail my colors to the mast and state unequivocally, I have and always will believe in the importance of agriculture in the future of this and every single country. I know of no country that has not paid due attention to its agricultural future that has prospered and, frankly, has a good future. So I say this because I'm going to say a few provocative things, but I believe that a presentation of this nature is very much there to prod the slumbering giant and to say, you have the wherewithal within you to make a difference. So without any further ado, I want to refer to the equation that I've put down: artificial intelligence times biotechnology. I've gone a little bit further than biodiversity, because biotechnology is much more wide and encompassing. A lot has been said in your Congress up to now about the question of climate change. I simply want to refer you back to the UN's latest report on climate change. It is code red. We are reaching critical tipping points. And if we ignore this, it will be at our peril. So we are looking at the farmer of the future. And please, I do not regard the farmer of the future to look like this, but there are a myriad of technologies that have to be mastered by the farmer of the future. Now, why did I pose this challenge to my students? I posed it because I wanted to stimulate them to think outside the frame, to go beyond boundaries. And there are a number of issues that prompted me. The world population is destined to grow by 9.73 billion by 2050, and most of that's going to be in Africa, and by 11.2 billion by 2100. And that poses an enormous challenge for agriculture. Then we are further saddled with a problem that only about 9.9% of South Africa is deemed to be arable and suitable for agriculture. Furthermore, there's the enormous challenge that farmers now face of an ever-increasing demand for food. Farmers will have to step up. They will have to improve their game considerably going forward. Our education system, however, is still stuck in an industrial era mode. Unfortunately, we are still delivering regurgitative people at the end of the system. Divergent thinking is still few and far between. Furthermore, you've heard, and you will hear it over and over, of the calamitous consequences we face if we ignore climate change, soil erosion, which is a major problem across our continent, and the loss of biodiversity. These are major challenges. Then we furthermore see an ever-increasing and a more rapid urbanization taking place. And with that comes dramatic changes in consumer tastes and expectations, which impact our farming community. We see ongoing energy challenges, and yet we seem to be blinded to the fact that we have an abundance of renewable energy available to us. Many parts of our country would be, if you ask them, would be able to tell you that they have 300 days of sunshine, and to no avail. Farmers have no choice, as far as I'm concerned, to explore and rapidly embrace radically different farming technologies. And I use the word radically deliberately. We have a difficulty also, furthermore, of inspiring our youth to remain in the rural areas, to be committed to the rural areas, and to become passionate farmers. The attraction of the urban areas is far too strong. Then there is a myriad of global economic factors which I cannot touch upon in a presentation of this nature. And finally, the consequences of an uncertain, not failed, but uncertain domestic political future. And these are but a few. So, Mr. Chairman, the history of agriculture is circumscribed by three main technological revolutions, and I wish to highlight them shortly. The first being the agricultural machinery revolution, where we saw the first such machineries in the late 19th century. And we've seen the adoption between 1900 and 1930, the early adoption thereof. One farmer fed 26 people. Then it changed, and we moved into the GMO and the green revolution area. And we see the first modified organisms in 1973 and the first modified plants in 1983. Then we moved again. Now one farmer fed 155 people. Big increase. Now we're in the digital agricultural revolution. The first Precision Agricultural Conference in 1997, not too long ago. And we've seen the active development from 2000 to the present. And what has the consequence been? One farmer now feeds 265 plus people in the era in which we live. So, what does this all mean? If we look at agricultural machinery, and I don't want to dwell on these things because they are self-evident: tractors, soil cultivation machineries, planting, seeding, fertilizing, irrigating, harvesting, haymaking, milking, grinders, etc. Then commonly modified products. People don't understand that when they walk into a supermarket, they are probably consuming commonly modified products. Alfalfa, canola, cotton, corn, soybeans, eggplant, carnations, potatoes, roses, squash, sugarcane, tobacco, rice, tomatoes, apple. Often asked by students, do you eat tomatoes? Yes. Do you eat GMOs? No. I said, well, then stop eating tomatoes. Digital agricultural technologies, big data. Farmers sit on a mountain of data. We now have access to the tools to analyze data, AI and machine learning, cloud computing, blockchain and common ledgers, IoT and connected sensors, weather monitoring, guidance, mapping and location, satellite and drone imagery, automated machinery and robotics. Let's put it all together. Climate change, Mr. Chairman, is fast and furious. These challenges are big. We are seeing tremendous changes in food demand. And you as farmers are exposed to an ever-increasing demands in this regard. And we are faced with changing temperatures, as said by Mr. Vali Musa. We are faced with increased atmospheric CO2 levels. There's no doubt about these things anymore. We are seeing increase in severe weather events. We only need to look around the country. Look at the west coast of America. Look at what has happened in Europe. Furthermore, more and more people need to be fed. And this will not go away. Urbanization is causing, as I've said, changes in food preferences. And the consumer demands more and more data services. So what does this all mean? We're exposed to more and more changes every day in the farming community. The warming effects of crop reproduction and dried soils, especially without irrigation and nutrition. We are seeing higher CO2 levels, which affect crop yields, lead to losses in quality due to increased protein and nitrogen levels, lower forage quality, impacts livestock. Extreme weather, natural disasters, as the President has said in his letter, and hydrological events, e.g. floods and droughts, harm and destroy crops. There's an increased demand for food, which leads to an increased load on farmers and the entire related supply chain. People in urban areas have higher incomes that impact their food preferences. They are consuming more and more meat and have a tremendous need for fruit, for vegetables, and less so for cereals. And the younger generation and urban citizens want to know more about food origins and demand digital services they use in other spheres. So, farmers are experiencing the severity of these changes. As a consequence, farmers need to grow more to cover quality and quantity losses due to the environmental impact. And farmers need to grow more to provide the products to feed a population with an increasing need. So what does that all say? Farmers feel a pressing need to look beyond current approaches to find alternative solutions. The limited resources are encouraging farmers to use farmlands more wisely, to grow more with less, and to adopt sustainable agricultural practices. Chairman, the post-industrial, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous era demands an agile mindset. Agriculture's challenge, a future-back approach to connect the dots. Steve Jobs famously said, you can't connect the dots looking forwards, you can only connect them looking back. The present situation, as has been said, is in many respects pretty dismal. Farmers need a moonshot. They need to go out there and develop a vision, a compelling vision, a deep-seated vision. This vision needs to be converted to a strategy, and the strategy to a program and an implementation thereof. Now, you will see that my ability to create slides is not all that great, but what I've created here is a conveyor belt. The future has to drive the present day. You cannot develop a future by standing here and looking there. You have to go out there like Shatner yesterday to really see the possibilities. Then to come back and create a strategy. And then with big data and all the other assistance to create a program and implementation with a strategy. I want to prod the slumbering giant in conclusion, Mr. Chair, because I think agriculture is the slumbering giant. There's no doubt about it. And it needs to be prodded. So I'm going to give you a few provocative questions. And please do not crucify me for it. Is agriculture still heavily risk averse in that it is primarily focused on not losing its current assets instead of aggressively pursuing the myriad of opportunities that lie embedded in what is a seemingly threatening and potentially devastating time? We as humans, Mr. Chair, are inherently risk averse. We see loss before we see gain. And frankly, we embrace loss far more aggressively than we embrace gain. But this is a time where we have to extricate ourselves from our risk aversion. We've got to become risk-seeking. Farmers have always been risk-seeking, but now is the time to be even more so. A second provocative question. Could it mean the proverbial killing of two birds with one stone? Land reform and climate change simultaneously. What do I mean by that? Instead of clinging to large expanses of land in ever worsening climatic conditions, would it, I ask, not be much wiser to shift the focus from protecting what exists to how AI and biotechnology can optimally leverage production of a consistently higher quantity and quality and stimulate and simultaneously decrease the need for land, which would free up large tracts of land to meet and even exceed the ever-louder drumbeat for land reform, obviating the need to indulge in what could become another never-ending succession of constitutional changes. And I say this with fear of what happens once we start. Once we start, we will open it all up again and again. I ask a further question. Could leveraging the interface between AI and biotechnology not be the most opportune way of simultaneously providing a multi-pronged answer to the two burning platform issues that commercial agriculture currently faces: land reform and climate change? Is it not a fact, Mr. Chair, that the green shoots of AI and biotechnology are increasingly visible in the climate control farming initiatives that are springing up in many areas, creating proving grounds for what would be possible by radically amplifying these baby steps? Is it not a fact that the advancements in climate control farming are providing answers to the ever-shifting preferences and priorities of a rapidly urbanizing population in our country, and frankly, in other markets? More and more fruit, vegetables, meat, and less cereal. Finally, I ask you to take inspiration from the wise words of a great man, an Irishman, who once said, "You see things that are and ask why. I dream things that never were, and I ask, why not?" You as farmers dreamt things that never were, and you continue to dream things that never were, and you continue to ask why not. Once again, Shaw gives credence to the age-old saying that exemplifies the creative and innovative qualities of our farming communities. Boer Wakaplan, you have always been the people who have not flinched when you are challenged extraordinarily. I believe it is possible. It may be threatening to say, let's do more and better on less, and we will create a more secure future for everyone, including commercial agriculture. I thank you very, very sincerely. It's a great honor to spend time with agriculturalists. Thank you, Mr. Chair.